Gracie arrived at dusk, a small suitcase in hand and worry written across her face. She stood outside the motel door, heart pounding, searching for a safe space. The receptionist counted rates, while Gracie whispered she needed just one room. 2 nights would be enough, she thought, a temporary shelter from the storm. At dawn, she walked to church, clutching hope close, praying for a miracle. The church doors were open and warm, a place offering food and quiet refuge. Volunteers handed blankets and formula with kindness that felt like sunlight. Mrs. Lopez smiled gently, wrapping a blanket around the baby's sleepy hands. Gracie promised herself she would try harder, for Hope's small, trusting eyes. At school, teachers whispered judgments, calling her choices foolish and wrong. Gossip spread like wildfire, and Gracie felt the stares cut through her skin. Still, the church offered support, a quiet shelf of help for weary mothers. Jackson worried in silence, juggling schoolwork and the fragile weight of care. He listened to sermons about righteousness, hoping to find direction inside. His parents spoke of sacrifice and futures, of choices that would not be undone. Adoption came up in whispers, a path painted with fear and cautious hope. They feared losing hope forever, yet wondered what life might look like otherwise. Gracie refused to sign away the one life that had rooted itself in her heart. Each night she rocked Hope to sleep, promising safety that she could almost feel. Friends at church offered bottles and diapers, small mercies that eased cold nights. Jackson scraped together money, asking his father for help without shame. Homework stacked higher, exams approaching while Hope's cries broke through study. At the motel window, Gracie watched city lights and imagined another life. She thought of college dreams, now folded into lullabies and midnight feeds. Counselors advised patience, and adoption counselors explained careful steps. Hope's first smile was like sunrise, and Gracie swore to protect that light. Rumors reached the church, and concerned neighbors dialed, voices trembling. A stranger reported the motel, certain a child's life needed urgent rescue. The knock at the door brought wide eyes and a polite uniform asking questions. CPS moved gently, polite voices promising to check on mother and child. Gracie answered with steady truths, claiming warmth, food, and a loving hold. The worker witnessed meals shared, diapers changed, a baby sleeping sound. Yet whispers insisted the motel could never be enough for a newborn's needs. Some in the pews felt relief, others clenched mourning for a mother's struggle. Jackson stood at the church back, hands trembling, determined to say the truth. He practiced words that night, wanting to make his parents understand. His mother blessed him with pride, and his father promised to listen. In quiet rooms, they weighed adoption, fear colliding with a fierce love. The couple at the table talked of open adoption, visits, and careful checks. They taught of vetting families, monthly visits, and promises meant to keep. Gracie and Jackson listened, hearts heavy but brave in their fragile hope. "We will not rush," one counselor said. "You have time to choose wisely." Hope's tiny fingers wrapped around Jackson's thumb, making him feel awake. They asked the sitter to stay, borrowing trust as if it were currency. The town watched, neighbors whispering prayers for a family on uncertain ground. At night, the couple sat together, whispering plans to make small changes. They mapped shifts, jobs and childcare, and ways to keep school. Jackson took late shifts, folded in homework between diaper changes and work. Gracie found a shelter that gave her a cot and the soft prayer of strangers. The church's soup kitchen became a place where Hope learned the warmth of hands. Some nights they feared a knock again, the loss of their fragile shelter. Yet every morning brought a small victory. Clean clothes, a filled bottle, a smile. Friends from volunteer shifts offered rides and babysitting for a test or class. A pastor's wife wrapped extra blankets, whispering encouragement against the cold. There were moments of shame, when judging eyes felt like a heavy coat. There were also meals and forgiveness, hands extended without questions asked. Jackson prayed for strength to tell his parents what the secret truly was. He rehearsed the confession until his voice trembled on the kitchen table. The family gathered for dinner, prayers said, and a silence that stretched long. Jackson's words spilled out, raw and honest, the truth of the sleeping child. Stunned faces softened as love flooded the room, a tearful recognition dawning. His parents listened, anger melting into worry, then resolute support and care. "We are family," his mother whispered, reaching for the tiny hand of hope. Plans shifted instantly. Their home cleared room for the baby's small needs. Reluctant voices around town softened under the pressure of a family reunited. The motel keys were returned with relief, and a moving van came at dawn. Gracie clutched hope as they rode, the future no longer a hollow fear. The pastor blessed the housewarming, neighbors arriving with casseroles and love. Jackson enrolled for extra help, balancing work and the new weight of fatherhood. Gracie returned to school part-time, nights filled with study and lullabies. Days smelled of formula and textbooks, an odd mix of hope and fatigue. A counselor met them weekly, ensuring everyone settled into their new roles. The idea of adoption drifted away, replaced by a promise to try and grow. Friends who once judged now visited, bringing toys and warm smiles for hope. The church collected funds quietly, paying for diapers and a winter coat. When cold winds came, the house glowed with blankets and steaming soup bowls. Jackson found pride in small victories, paying bills, fixing a leaking sink. Gracie learned to sleep lightly, hope's breath a soft metronome of safety. At the PTA, they heard whispers fade. Acceptance took root in steady steps. Time stitched wounds with gentle threads of patience and steady daily care. Hope grew, tiny fingers mastering the world, learning to reach and laugh. Neighbors now waved openly, teaching the child to recognize friendly faces. The family found joy in ordinary mornings, cereal bowls and spilled milk. At church, the pastor praised compassion, reminding all how gentle change heals. Jackson and Gracie attended workshops, learning budgeting and childcare skills. They set small goals: graduate, steady jobs, and a plan for a brighter life. Friends who counseled once now cheered at milestone moments and school shows. The scandalous whispers quieted, replaced by admiration for how they endured. Hope's laughter became the town's new chorus, a sound that mended many hearts. The house filled with the smell of celebration when tests were passed and paid. Gracie signed up for evening classes, turning fear into newfound courage. Jackson fixed a broken fence, hands tired but proud of what they achieved. The couple who once spoke of adoption now embraced the family warmly. Seasons changed, and the little home grew with pictures and small trophies. Neighbors learned the story and apologized for judging life they didn't know. Gracie looked at Hope and vowed to keep building a life on honest love. Jackson promised his child a future built on nights of sacrifice and joy. The church bells rang softly, a steady drum marking days of healing and grace. Finally, the town celebrated the family, not for drama, but for faithful care. In the glow of a calm evening, Hope slept as love made a permanent home.